Summary of The Imp of the Perverse by Edgar Allan Poe. The short story Imp of the Perverse starts out with a meditation on the narrator's unusual worldview. He criticizes different ways of judging human behavior, such as phrenology, because they don't deal well with the idea of a certain urge. Phrenology believes that human impulses are good and sent by God, like the need to eat, but the narrator argues that there are darker impulses that can even override the need to stay alive. The narrator says that some of these urges are actively bad because they make a person perversely do things they know they shouldn't. The person telling the story calls this urge the imp of the perverse. For example, the imp can make you feel like you need to jump when you're on the edge of a cliff. The narrator also says that the imp is to blame for his present situation, which is that he is in a jail cell and will be put to death for murder. The narrator then says that he planned to kill his target for many weeks and months so that he could get a big inheritance from him. He finally comes up with the idea of putting a poisoned candle in the victim's room. "I knew my victim liked to read in bed," he says. "I also knew that his room was small and didn't have good airflow." The trick works, and the subject is said to have been killed by God. The storyteller has been happy with his fortune and the life it has given him for a long time. But eventually, he starts to worry about being found out. The narrator keeps his worrying thoughts at bay for a while by telling himself over and over, "I am safe." But eventually, he changes the way he says the phrase, I am safe, yes, if I am not so stupid as to make an open confession." The storyteller can't get rid of this thought once it comes into his head. He starts running down the street to get rid of the thought. As he starts to run faster, people start to notice and start to chase after him. Still, he fights the rising urge to reveal until he collapses, or, as he says, "I thought some invisible demon hit me with his big hand on the back." He says he did it, even though he doesn't remember it. Back in the present of the story, the narrator is now in a jail cell waiting for his inevitable death. He will be hanged the next day. He wants to know what will happen to his soul when he dies.
About the author. Poe was born in Boston. His father left him before he was a year old, and a year later, his mother died of tuberculosis. Poe was taken in by a rich merchant and slave broker, who gave him a good education, but it was hard for him to fit in with other people. He spent his whole life going back and forth between trying to fit in and trying to find himself. He did different jobs in the service, but after several failed tries to meet expectations, he was let go. His gambling bills and tendency to argue caused him to lose the support of his foster family and his good name. He drank too much, and his dark, hopeless feelings often came out in his works in a troubling way. When he was found screaming incoherently in someone else's clothes on the streets of Baltimore, it was similar to how his life began, with tragedy. He was taken to Washington Medical College, and a few days later, he died there. His work, on the other hand, went on after he died, and today he is seen as one of the most important writers of early America.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.